well, we had a conversation, and I think we can have a conversation tonight with these three candidates, and so that's the goal. The goal is that you leave tonight knowing something that you didn't know before, meeting somebody new. But the great thing about Leesburg is our candidates who come, who volunteer or put themselves up for election are all pretty good candidates. They believe in the community and they value what Leesburg is and what it can be. And that's true with this election too. So we're very lucky with that. So I'm going to ask the candidates to introduce themselves and why they're here, how they got to Leesburg, why they're the best candidate for the job. And I'm going to sit down and let Rents and Danielle paper. They can ask the questions, and they won't mumble as much as I do, and those type of things. So we'll go through that. We have a couple prepared questions, 5 or 6, 7, and then we'll go out in the audience, and you guys can ask questions till we're done. So that's the plan. So who you are, how you got to Leesburg.
Ladies first.
Sure.
Chivalry is not dead. Wow, I am so excited. My name's Gwen Pangle. I want to start by saying thank you to Loud and Now for sponsoring this, and to this beautiful restaurant, Lightfoot, for hosting us. It is an honor to be here in front of you, and thank you all for being here tonight. It really does my heart good to see so many people interested in what happens in our town, and that's just amazing. So congratulations to all of you for being here and being interested citizens. So I've been in Loudoun County since 1977. I'm married into it. My ex-mother-in-law would say, you're not from here unless you're of the dirt, but I'm getting close. So I moved into Leesburg. We lived out in Watson, off Watson Road, off Evergreen Mill, for all my kids' growing up years. And then I moved into town in 1996, so I've been in town quite a bit as well. I moved here from Fairfax County. We came out of Alabama in my formative years and moved up here and thought I was going to die every day in West Springfield High School because it was nothing like what I came from. So it has been quite the journey, but I've raised my children here and I'm real happy about that. I went to George Mason and I got my Bachelor of Science in Nursing, so I still have an active nursing license. I volunteer those skills. I was a critical care and hospice nurse for 15, 17 years, something like that. My careers overlapped for about 5 years because I wanted something to do other than to think about children and people dying. And I got my real estate license. So a few years after that, I realized I was going to become a single mother, and in Loudoun County, that's not an easy thing when you have 2 children to raise. So I needed to decide about nursing versus real estate, and I needed to ultimately jump into real estate. So I had the flexibility to get them on and off the bus, and I had the ability to make more money than the $4.88 an hour I started making when I started nursing. And then I ended up with my sister's 3 children as well. So now I have 5 children to raise as a single mother, and that made being a successful business owner an absolute necessity. So it has been good to me, and the skills transferred very well. So I tell you all of that so that you understand the skills that it took to make that happen. Because I can stand before you today and say I have 5 grown children who are now contributing to society. I have 9 grandchildren who are starting the schools here, just like their parents before them did. I have 3 businesses in town, downtown Leesburg, and I have been on, more committees than you can shake a stick at, and in leadership positions in all 3 levels of my industry and around town and in the county, to include the Chamber and Economic Development and the Downtown Business Association. I've been both a member and the leader of not the Chamber, but on the board for the Chamber. Tony does a great job at leading the Chamber. So what I want to tell you is that it took all of that skill set to have a reputation for being honest and having integrity both in my personal life and in my business life. And it gave me the ability to envision a future, execute a plan, and lead myself and others to the fulfillment of a vision. You can trust me to be open, honest, engaging, forward-thinking, respectful, and proactive. You can also expect to be part of collaborative conversations, whiteboard vision sessions, roundtable think tanks, and back-of-the-napkin ideas, because that's how I like to communicate. You can expect me to choose people over politics and engage in the same type of listening skills that I learned when I was making a living as a nurse. I'll make decisions with the information that I have at hand, and I will gather new information as time goes on so that I'm making the right decision along the way and not just sort of stay in one lane and not gather information from all of the people that are interested parties. Your vote's very important in every election, and it's particularly important in this one to me. And I thank you very much for being here tonight, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you, Loud and Now, for putting this on. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't get to know how wonderful we are as people, right, guys?
Great.
And thank you, Lightfoot, for also hosting us. I think you guys actually came for beer and then realized that there was an event and decided to just chauffeur your way in. So welcome, and thank you all so much for coming tonight. This is a special election, and it is very important. Your vote does matter. My name is Josh Steele. I grew up here. I ran in the streets in the back right outside. I remember skateboarding around these streets when I was a little kid. I went to Loudoun County Public Schools as a kid. I went to Cool Spring Elementary, where I was a proud Penguin, Harper Park Middle School, where I was a Hurricane, and then Heritage High School, where I was a Pride.
We're Pride.
We're Pride. From there, I graduated and went to St. Francis University, where I got my marketing degree and played 4 years of college football. I was a 2-year All-American. After graduating, I had a short stint in the NFL. I won't tell you which team, so you probably won't vote for me. And don't Google it either. Then you really won't vote. After I got married to my beautiful wife, Abigail, who is not here. If she's not here, she's walking our dog and running here. We have a South African Boer Bull, which is an 80-pound dog, soon to be a 160-pound dog, more like it walks her. So we live downtown in Crescent Place. I grew up in Tavistock Farms, where my 3 brothers and my lovely parents raised us. Mom, Dad, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for me personally to make me the man I am today. Because without you, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking to all these wonderful people about how much I love Leesburg, because you guys raised me in this wonderful place. So thank you, Mom and Dad. So we'll get to talk about the issues as the night goes on. So I really do hope that you can see who we are as people. As Gwen said, this is not about politics, it's about the people, because we're here to serve the people. I grew up in the church, and I'm a strong believer in treat others the way you want to be treated. You do service for the good of the people. I live my life by a poem of Chief Tecumseh, an act of valor. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Trouble no one about their religion. Demand respect, and demand that they respect you. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. And that's what I believe wholeheartedly. That's why I'm running, and that's why I hope you vote for me on February 6th. Thank you, and God bless.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Neil Steinberg, and I would like to echo the other candidates and welcome you all here. We are 3 good candidates for one position on the town council, and it's great to see so many people who are actually interested in the process. I'm reminded of a West Wing where the character of the president, played by Martin Sheen, is asked, "Why are you running to be president?" And he stops for a minute and answers his press secretary, I thought about that all day. I almost had a really good idea. I came to Leesburg in 1975 and actually ran one of the first bike stores in what was then half of Virginia Village, long before it became what it is today. I attended Virginia Tech, where I met my wife, Katie, who unfortunately couldn't be here this evening. She's got whatever's going around, and we felt it would be a good idea not to bring it here. I majored in starting engineering, then political science, and curiously enough, I wound up majoring in theater. So a lot of performance-based experience. Came to Leesburg, ran a bike shop, and in 1979, Katie and I opened a business called PhotoWorks, which is still today in the same location on the corner of Loudon and King. We have 2 floors above Leesburg Vintner. We spent our first 31 years out south of Bluemont in what was then and is still now a very beautiful rural part of the county. We moved into town in 2008. Her mother lives with us, and that was part of the impetus for moving into town. In the course of operating that business for the last 38 years plus, we've had the opportunity to meet a lot of people in this town and deal with them on very personal levels, as you may imagine. Photography and people's lives are quite near and dear to them, and we have been honored to be part of that process. Now, we are in the second decade of the 21st century, and as you all know, especially the older ones of us in this room, we have seen remarkable changes happen on a technological and a social level. So one of my strong impulses for running for the town council is to see to it that we as a town are prepared now in the upcoming years to meet these challenges. We have technology we probably can't even imagine yet, and we need to be nimble enough in the end to be able to meet these challenges. Over the next 6 years, this town is going to spend some $363 million in various projects around the town. We need to know that those projects are good projects, which they are, and that they'll be completed on time. And every year, there's going to be a new set of projects that comes down the road, and we want to be able to evaluate those with the understanding that spending the resources that we have will serve us well, not just for the next year or 2, but for the next 5 years, or 10 years, or 20 years. It's very important for us and for the younger generations to come. So I know we have a lot of questions. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the opening statement. I thank you for being here, and as they say, here we go.
All right, that was the easy part. Yeah. First of all, can everyone in the back hear us decently well? All right, give a shout if you can't hear us at any point in the show. I'm Rence Green. I'm the county government reporter for Loudon Now and the host of our podcast, Morning Minute. I want to first acknowledge someone who's not here, Kara Clark Rodriguez, who is actually our Leesburg reporter. She's got the flu right now, so she didn't want to come and spread the contagion. So, and she's got a baby coming pretty soon, so I'm going to try and carry the weight. Let's see. We're going to start down here, since you've had a second to catch your breath. We're going to start with Josh all the way on the left, go to Gwen, and then go to Neil. We're going to give you guys about 2 minutes to answer these questions. We're not going to be super strict, but try to keep it tight. And Danielle and I are going to alternate. We have a couple questions to ask you guys. We do want to get through it because we want to get a chance to get to the folks in the audience. We're going to give all 108 of them a chance to ask you searching personal questions. I want to start with one thing, which is that there seems to be I want you to know I helped write these questions, but I did not write these questions. There's a trend in the Leesburg Town Council. I think some people feel that things that come up for a vote keep coming back for a vote. One of those things, of course, is food trucks. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the food truck situation. Thank you. Now, I want to ask you, because this is about to come up again, is there a need to allow food trucks in more places in town, in fewer places in town? And are you worried about the impact of these food trucks on the brick and mortar restaurants in town?
To answer the first part of the question, yes, there should be food trucks in downtown. I think we can all agree on that. Things keep coming up because the town sometimes gets new council members and new issues arise. But sometimes there's not the wherewithal to follow through on some things. But the food truck issue, specifically, I just had one of my campaign events at Loudon Brewing, which is very adamant on allowing the food trucks to come into town. And I think it helps them economically, because if we can get local businesses helping other local businesses, then Leesburg will thrive. It's fairly simple, but what was the second part of the question?
If there's an effect that you see on the brick and mortar restaurants.
So in the I'm an EDC commissioner, and this came up, the food truck topic came up before it went to council. It had to have a majority vote to be presented to council. We voted unanimously, yes, this should be allowed. There was some stipulations that a food truck that makes pizza can't be sitting in front of a brick and mortar restaurant that makes pizza. So they don't want a burger place right in front of Melt. That's gonna, drive Melt. I mean, you can't beat Melt's Burgers, but it's gonna drive their profits down. So the stipulations that were put forward were actually very valid. It got voted down. Why, I have no idea. Some council members didn't see the economic, enhancements that it provided to the town. But if voted as your councilman, I will definitely vote yes to bring food trucks back. It's the collaboration that you see between council member Ron Campbell and Vice Mayor Suzanne Fox that is what is needed in this town. And if you're willing to work with others to achieve for the greater good of the people of Leesburg, then we'll all benefit. So I hope that answers the question.
I think sometimes we get stuck in a mindset and we operate out of fear of the unknown. And that's reasonable, but I really believe we need to have the conversations. And I love Leesburg. I love the history of Leesburg. My children are in the restaurant business. I am a fan of food trucks. I believe that there is a place for food trucks. Don't necessarily want to see them on King or Market or just hanging out all the time. But I do believe that we can support our small business. I'm a small businesswoman. I believe we can support our small businesses that need those food trucks. I had a conversation with Stilson Green and with Carrie the other day, and I said sometimes I think the bricks and mortar businesses need to think a little outside the box about how they could actually use that themselves to the betterment of their own business, as opposed to being afraid that it would somehow take something away from them. So yes, I am a fan. It's a conversation I want to have, and I think we should have it.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to beg to differ with both candidates to a certain extent. I have nothing against food trucks, but we have an historic district that has a certain scale with narrow streets, and we do have a substantial investment by brick and mortar restaurants. And if you don't think that's the case, you need to walk around and see the restaurants we now have called Delirium and Sidebar and Fa La La, and several more that are on the way, not to mention this one. There is a proposal considered, first of all, regarding the historic district, that we can allow food trucks in certain situations where the truck could be on private property and a certain distance from the road. Now, there aren't many of the current breweries in the downtown area that could meet that requirement, but I would submit, for example, that the Black Hoof, which sits right in the middle of King Street, would be hard-pressed to have a food truck parked in front of that establishment and still have traffic flow well through the downtown area. But possibly certain of the establishments could. As far as other parts of the town, more industrial areas out by the airport, for example, and certain places that aren't currently served well by restaurants, I think food trucks would be just fine. And we know food trucks can be very popular, but there are definitely two sides of the issue, and I believe, and I don't think it has to do with old style thinking or being stuck in the mud. I think it has to do with substantial investments that have been made in water and sewer hookups, in parking and buildings such as this, that these businesses also deserve to be listened to. We don't have to my knowledge yet, a firm decision. But this is an historic district, and so the decision also needs to be made whether or not it is, in the end, a proper use for the historic district. We have a similar argument, by the way, now being made for tents in the historic district. And we have to decide, is this an historic district or not? And are we going to adhere to the things that brings people to this area because of the historic gem that it actually is? So in some situations, absolutely, but not in all situations, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, guys. My name's Danielle Nadler. I'm managing editor of Loud Now, and just to mix it up, I'm going to ask you a question.
Are we supposed to clap too?
That's what I was going for. It's okay. So just to mix it up, we'll start with you, and every other one will. Will we ever start with Gwen?
You don't want to see my
Put
card.
me in charge. Yeah, okay. So we wanted to ask a little bit about development. There are specific developments that are under debate right now, but taking a step back, how do you feel the town's planning and zoning policies overall equip the town to manage growth pressures?
That's a good question. I think overall, the town's policies and processes are good. Now, in the not too recent past, we have seen some proposals that would ask us to substantially deviate from the current process. And when I say deviate, I mean suggestions such as fast-tracking proposals to 45 to 60-day periods, removing a good portion of the decision-making process from the BAR, Board of Architectural Review, Planning Commission, and the Town Council, and making more of our decisions administrative. Now, I admit there are certainly some decisions that can be made administrative. But we had an EDSC report that said the BAR and the Planning Commission are too much in the weeds. You need to get them out of the weeds. And the law says that's exactly where the Planning Commission and the BAR are supposed to be. We don't have a Planning Commission and a BAR because we just thought it was a great idea. We have a Planning Commission and a BAR because that's what the Virginia state law requires us to have. They're supposed to be in the weeds so that the town council doesn't necessarily have to be so much in the weeds. So to turn over a good portion of our process to administration, and we have a good staff. I'm not disparaging the staff in any way, but in my opinion, in the end, the final authority in most cases should rest with the town council, because in the end, as this room indicates, it's the voters who hold the council members responsible. You can't fire staff, but you can certainly fire council members, and I think the decision in the end should rest with them. Thank you.
So I'm just going to deal with the elephant in the room right now, and because there's a lot of people that say, well, she's a realtor. She'd vote for every development that came through town because it lines her pockets. It's beneficial to her. Anybody disagree with me about that? People think that? So here's this. I came out of nursing, the #1 most respected profession, to something that literally circled the drain of respectability. And I didn't have a choice. I needed to be able to raise 5 children, and I needed to make it work. So I couldn't change the whole picture, but I could change my piece of it. I could make it different for the people who were around me. And I could get on every single ethics committee, every single thing that said what you have to be a realtor, and I'm going somewhere with this, while I was up the chain in our profession. And that was what was important to me. And by golly, I have people in here who can attest to the fact that I have been on almost every committee at our local, state, and national level. Oh, hey, Christine. And she heads up our local association, so I'm delighted for that support. But that being said, I have fought for that. And not every development is right for Leesburg, okay? Not every developer is a good developer. Not every builder is a good builder. But there are ones that are. And I think part of the problem is that we don't, in and of ourselves, have a clear vision for what we want to look like, which makes it ambiguous for the people that come to us with plans. What we also don't have is a set of documents that allows us to stay up to date and current with what's happening in the marketplace. We can't build things that people don't want to live in, whether they're commercial or whether they're residential. We have to keep up with that. I think the flexibility inside of our zoning laws makes that important, that we have a clear vision of what we want to look like, and then we bring the stakeholders together and say, here's what we want to look like, now bring us this. Because this product can be sold. This is how people want to live. Yes, the change is difficult. You know, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's changes talks about the stages of death and dying. And anytime you have a loss, you go through those stages. And we see it a lot when we lose green space, when we lose, you know, a park, when we lose any of that stuff. So I would say to you that no, I won't always vote for a development just because it's a development. So let's just get that off the table. The other part of that is that, well, now I've fallen one step further and I've gone into politics. And that's, you know, another level below realtors, according to some people. So I'm not sure where the bottom is, but I'm going to tell you this about that. I did a interview, and it said, you know, no, I don't want to be in politics because politics is about the struggle for power. I'm about being a servant leader. And I wouldn't vote for everyone. I think we need flexible planning and zoning. I think they do need to be in the weeds, but they need to make sure their guidelines when they're down there are ones that we can actually live with and move Leesburg forward. Thanks.
So Leesburg is growing at a very, very rapid rate. I'm not saying we need to put brakes on it all, because we can't. Developers come and buy land and they build as they so please by right. But we need to be smart about growth and how it impacts our current residents and their infrastructure, how their roads are being handled. That's what I'm really concerned about, is the amount of people that are coming in and living and building these, you know, multifamily homes and, you know, duplexes and stuff. How is it impacting the residents that are already here? And how can we help them? We need to make sure that the infrastructure is upgraded. We need to make sure that our schools are well funded and our schools are being taken care of, because most of them are already at capacity. But these are the kind of things that we need to look at. Working with the Board of Architectural Review, I do agree with Gwen that we do need to keep updating our paperwork and our processes and our procedures on how we do things and how we handle businesses, how we handle applications and developers. Those are the things that I do on as a living right now, and think that, you know, as your councilman, it would really benefit the town, is going to the weeds and actually learning what is actually being applied to some of these developments. Because I can tell you what, if it's going to impact the current residents of certain areas, I'm not going to vote for it. Simple. I don't want to put any more burdens on you guys. Right now, we already spend way too much on the roads than we do with our families. And I think it's because of overpopulation and too fast of building. Now that being said, if it is smart growth, I will vote yes for it, as long as it's not going to debilitate certain people in certain areas. West Park being a good example. I'm surprised I'm not getting thrown anything at me right now.
Do you have a question on that?
Not yet.
Okay, good. So I'll hold the West Park stuff. But I want to say, I want my kids to grow up in a part of Leesburg that I grew up in, and that's very important to me. So that's what I believe about development in Leesburg.
Thank you so much, Josh.
All right, thank you all. Did we start with?
Oh, we started with Neil last time.
Okay, that means Gwen gets to take the first shot at this one. First of all, as a journalist, I'm glad that I'm in a profession that's always treated with dignity and respect, unlike realtors and politicians. I'm glad you brought up West Park Golf Course. The big question there, I think, is there's a two-part question when I ask you about West Park, which is, first of all, what is the town council's role in that debate, if any? And secondly, given your druthers, and if there is a role for the town council, what would you like to see happen to that property?
Okay. So, I've been following the West Park website. I know this is a hot button. And when this started back in August, I had a client that I pitched it to. And I said to him, I said, I think that, I'm a property rights person. So any one of you in here, if you're going to sell your property, I'm going to be right behind you saying you have the right to sell it and you have the right to a fair market value. So I'm a big property rights person, and that part of that goes with what I believe about it being so important to American values. And I said to him, I said, I don't necessarily believe that houses is the highest and best use for that property. I think that a hotel in keeping with the town, an arts and cultural center, which I think we need equally as well, would be the appropriate thing to have there. And then perhaps that hotel would want to keep part of the golf course and keep some of the park land, and maybe that would be a nice mix, which is what I pitched to him. He didn't prevail, however, so we have what we have. I don't still believe that that is necessarily the highest and best use for that land, but I do believe they have a right to sell it. So I'm not a pitchforks, keep everybody out kind of girl. No, I don't believe they have any role right now, because we don't have anything other than somebody has put an offer on and they're under contract with a study period. So we don't have anything to decide about right now. Do I think people should be informed about what's happening as much as they can? Absolutely. Conversations so that when the time comes, What I would hesitate to say is just keep fighting and keep everybody out just for the sake of trying to keep it the same, because I don't believe that's realistic and I don't believe that's going to happen. So what I would prefer is that people are proactive, that we bring people in and show them West Park from your perspective, so that we can talk about what can you do to buffer this, what can we do to make this more palatable, because at some point it is going to change. And when you do things by right, you might not necessarily like what they decide to do by right. If it's not 27 clustered houses. So I would say keep an open mind. I would say think about property rights, and I would say get in front of the developer, not in an angry way, but in a way that promotes dialogue about what could possibly happen there and ideas for what that could look like, so that we could ease the pain a little bit of the change.
Thank you.
Ditto. Gwen hit it right on the head. County Council doesn't really have much to do as of right now, but when it comes to rezoning, because of the floodplains, there's a lot of floodplain mitigation over there, storm drain mitigation that needs to be done before the builder can actually build, because it's been a while since it's been updated. But that being said, I'm a big property rights advocate in any way, shape, or form, just like Gwen. But Town Council has not much to do as of right now, unfortunately. I actually learned how to play golf on that golf course, so I would like to see as much as possible preserved. But when it comes to rights of the developer, they do have the right to do with it as they will under the town's rezoning ordinance and things like that. So Gwen hit it right on the head. We just have to sit and wait and hear things from the developer. I do suggest, the West Park community has really rallied around everybody and really been very informed and very up to date on everything. I would like to see as much as it preserved as possible, because that's where I learned to play golf, and I'd love to see my kids play golf there. But the likelihood of a golf course is very slim to none. But I'd like to see as much green space and land preserved as possible. I'd like to see as much land in Leesburg preserved as possible. I'll try and speak up. I know I'm getting over a sinus infection, so I apologize. But yep, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so once again, I'm going to diverge just a little bit. First of all, Gwen and Josh are absolutely right. This is a piece of private property, and the current owners have a right to sell, and someone has a right to buy. The question is, what happens to it once it sells? In 1986, the current owner drew a map that shows 27 lots. The golf course is currently zoned a Leesburg designation RE. Sorry, this is a little technical, but it's It's pretty straightforward. It means one house every 3 acres. But there's been no proper subdivision, and so the 27 lots that are on the current map are unbelievably unrealistic in that some of them are entirely in floodplain. The chances of the developer, Cal Atlantic, being able to achieve 27 homes on this property with its current conditions is highly unlikely. You have to build your houses on the high points, which means in the end, without incredible water mitigation, you'd have your infrastructure and your streets in the floodplain. Not exactly what you want. Developers often throw projects out because they want to see what the reaction is going to be. So the first suggestion thrown out was a text amendment, which is less expensive than a rezoning, which would give them 2 clusters, 17 on one portion of the course, holes 14 and 15, and another cluster of 10 homes on 5 and 6. Those 2 clusters are in entirely different parts of the course. You'd never be able to see them. Nevertheless, the West Park residents have very real concerns and understandable concerns. Now that proposal has now possibly morphed into another one, which is there's an 8-acre commercial parcel. This developer has no desire to develop commercial real estate. They're a residential developer. Their proposal then is if the town will rezone the commercial and give them roughly 90 townhomes, they will give the golf course to the town in its entirety. Not in writing, nothing is in writing, but this is a rumored proposal. At that point, the town and the residents would have to decide, do we want the town in the management of a golf course, maybe with a management company, or do we want to simply take the golf course at that point in its entirety, conserve it entirely as open space parks and be administered by Parks and Rec? In the end, the other 2 candidates have said there's no decision to be made because there's no formal proposal, but in theory, a proposal is supposed to be put forth sometime next month, so it's coming upon us. And one of the 3 people sitting here, me I hope, may be involved in that decision-making process. But until we see it, it's hard to say definitively.
Mr. Steinberg, I'm sorry.
We're done? Okay.
Almost there. Go right ahead.
Very good. So we need to wait and see what is offered, but it may turn out better for the West Park neighborhood than they currently envision. Thanks.
You'll be up first, Josh, on this one. So the winner of this race will be sworn in right about when Kai Dentler is proposing his budget. So we wanted to ask you, each of you, what your budget priority will be.
So my budget priority is the citizens and making sure that they're taken care of first and foremost. You guys pay the taxes. You guys have the voice, so it's about you. I would like to see the town flourish more so than it already is. I'd like to see money given back to the businesses. I'd like to see, the trash is a nightmare. I'd like to see that get worked out. People aren't getting their. Yeah. You're just looking at. It's little things like that that I'd really like to see get things taken care of. We all manage checkbooks or do online banking. I think that when it comes to running someone else's money, I think that's more important. If I ask you for $100, you're going to say, "What's it for?" or "When can I get it back?" Those are the most important things. So I'm not going to be one that's going to sit there and spend your money frivolously on extravagant things for the town. But if you vote for me, what you will get is someone that can tell you what your dollars went to, and plain and simple. I'm not going to try and make the town more flamboyant than it needs to be. I will invest in things like artwork and bike racks that people enjoy, fun things for the town. Like Gwen mentioned earlier, an art center would be really nice for the town. But for every dollar that is spent, I want to be able to tell you when you come to me as a councilman and say, where's my tax money going? I want to be able to say it's gone here and give you a reason why. So I will sit down with the budget people and go over every cent that's spent in the town budget. Thank you.
So budgets are boring and they're confusing. And I was online the other night and I found one. This small little town got I'm real visual. So they got this program that allowed you, the citizens, and us to manage the budget and to go in and look. So whatever your tax bill is, all you had to do was launch the app, put in your tax bill, and it would show you exactly on a graph, charts, pie charts, however you want to look at it, where each penny of that dollar was going. And I feel like that is a really wonderful tool that I would like to see in the hands of all of us. So I sent it to Kai. Actually, I'm not even on the council, and I'm already pushing stuff at him, like I said. But I think it would be great, because then we know exactly where we've been spending our money, we can see it, and then we can decide what we adjust to make things look the way we want them to look. Part of that coming with the vision, working from there into the budget, and making those things available. I also believe that after spending 7 years or more on the Downtown Business Association, that the historic district is the heart of Leesburg, and I'm a cardiac nurse. So I believe if you keep the heart healthy, the rest of town is healthy as well. So I believe that a healthy budget that supports our downtown and the nightlife and the economy and our economic development in a really wise growth way. If we look at how we're morphing into more of an urban society and we need more walkability, we need more public art, huge fan of public art. I think if we focus on those things and keep our heart healthy, the rest of the town will flourish. And I would want to have a budget that did exactly that, and one that was really visual so you could see exactly where any little change in a budget item would affect you.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, if you want to know how your town dollars are being spent, you need only look at this document, which is Town of Leesburg FYI 2019 proposed budget. This represents the CIP, capital improvement projects, for the next 6 years. And as I said in my opening statement, it represents an expenditure of some $368 million. Those tax dollars are divided up into primarily, the largest portion goes to our streets and our highways. Now that's a concern, an area of concern for everybody in the room. Traffic is always a concern. It also deals with other projects like pedestrian walkways, the airport that we have. This is the money that we're spending for the next 6 years. It's already allocated, projects are already in the pipeline, some near completion. Battlefield, for example, is almost near completion to 15. We're looking at a project for the Battlefield 15 bypass intersection to alleviate traffic there. We need to do things like some maintenance on the wastewater treatment plant, the drinking water treatment plant, all this infrastructure that supports us and this town. Sometimes I get in conversations with people and they ask, what are you going to do about my taxes? And my response is, what will you give up? Will you give up adequate trash removal? Personally, I have no problem with trash removal in my neighborhood. Snow removal, yard waste removal. The town has its own drinking water treatment plant and its own wastewater treatment plant. These are not services we get from the county. I believe we are as fiscally conservative as the level of service expected by the residents, each and every one of us in this room is expecting. That's how fiscally we are. We expect services. People like idly, people like parks. Do we want to give up those things? Public art is great, I'm all for it, and oftentimes that comes to us without actually having to spend dollars. But in the end, I feel Leesburg is a great place to live. We have to operate on a balanced budget. We don't have a negative budget. Yes, we float bonds and so on, but at the end of the day, our budget has to balance to the penny. And I think our staff, the financial office and our staff, does a great job for that. So we know where our tax dollars are going, and we have a pretty good idea of where it's going to be going in the future. Thank you.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for hanging out so long. We're not done yet, but I want to let you know we've only got a few more questions, only about 20 or 30 more questions, and we're going to throw it to you guys for a few questions from the audience. And thanks so much, especially the folks standing up in the back, for hanging out with us. But obviously, as you can see by the number of people in here, people are pretty concerned about what's going on in Leesburg. I believe it is Neil's turn to go first.
I think so.
And I want to ask you about a little bit of a zoomed out, bigger question. Downtown, the last year and a couple of years have been pretty transformative and big years in Leesburg, especially downtown. We've seen a lot of new business come in, particularly in the form.
Louder again, please.
Sure thing. We've seen a lot of new business come in, particularly in the form of new breweries and new restaurants and so on. So what I want to ask you is there something, or should there be something, that the town government is doing to encourage more business growth? And I want to pitch out a couple examples. For example, is there support that you see for having a Main Street program, or having the town build more parking and so on? I want to see if you have any ideas to throw out on that one.
Sure. Well, we'll take the Main Street program first. The Main Street program was brought up before town council, and everybody thought that program was going to be voted for, but in the end, it got, in my opinion, derailed. And instead, we had the Economic Development Steering Committee, which spent 6 months, and if you want to factor in staff time and a consultant's time, almost $135,000 to basically tell us what we already knew. And we still don't have a Main Street program, nor do we have a vision for the town, which was another thing this committee was charged for. Repeat the question again.
Sure. Is there anything else, for example, like the town government should be doing to encourage more business development?
Well, we have an economic development office. We have a new economic development officer, and the town is constantly looking for ways to attract business to town. We have, in the recent past, brought some wonderful lower impact businesses. Joe May's business, EIT, is certainly one. K2M is another. So we are always on the lookout for businesses to come to the town of Leesburg. If you look at the historic district, which many people over the years, and I've been there for quite a while, have seen kind of ebb and flow, but now we are definitely in a renaissance, if you will. There has been substantial investment by primarily restaurants and breweries in the downtown area, one of which is Delirium. Delirium, if you don't know, is a Belgian company, and theirs is the first U.S. location right on the corner of Loudon and King. And it's brilliant, and I can tell you they're doing an incredible business. So other investors see downtown Leesburg as an opportunity. They're investing the dollars in the downtown area, and it's becoming maybe more of a nightlife area. So it's more of a youth area. We are indeed involving. And if that's the direction that we're going to go, then I think the council, it behooves the council to help that, not get in its way, and I don't believe we do. We still have historic district concerns that we have to deal with, but in the end, I believe downtown Leesburg is doing very well, as is the rest of the town, if you look at Village of Leesburg and other projects like that. So the health of the town is good, and the council does everything in its power, I believe, to foster business. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would agree. I look at it from a little bit of a different perspective. We have kind of turned into a restaurant, brewery, wine tour. We're all about the food now, as opposed to antique shops and other things. So what I see from the grassroots level is that it's very difficult with our historic buildings to get businesses who have a set floor plan that they need into our buildings, so that we're not really going to be a shopping place, and we're not going to be able to drive that kind of traffic in town because we don't have the buildings in the historic district that can accommodate that. What they do accommodate a little bit better are the restaurants and the breweries and the places like that. So we've become very much centric around that, and I think it's doing a wonderful job for our downtown. The need to be able to incentivize building owners to revamp their businesses and appeal to a little bit more of an urban culture, all the while keeping the outside character. when somebody wants to change a building, they have to, well, they want it to be ADA compliant, and they want you to sprinkle the entire building, and they want you to do all of these things, which we really can't do in the downtown businesses. So it kind of puts a halt to what we can do downtown. So I really believe we need to work on some of our zoning regs and some of our thinking about how we bring people, businesses into downtown so that we keep it thriving. Because a thriving community keeps your property values up, because nobody wants to live near a dead town. So it's very important to be very cognizant of what kind of, we're a destination place now, and we are massaging that and making that even better. We're becoming a place people want to come to eat and drink and have some nightlife and other things, you know, the arts, the culture. And I think we should foster those things to keep our community thriving.
Thank you.
So Neil said something that I'm going to harp on. He said that we need to bring, or we're heading towards an area where we're bringing youth into Leesburg. I couldn't agree more. I think, quite frankly, the town needs someone that's going to be energetic and vibrant and has new ideas. Brings a whole different mindset into the way we look at things as a town, both economically and how we handle our business. And just by the color of my hair, you can say it. You can I mean well.
He meant that in the kindest possible way.
But with that being said, I mean that in a nice way. I mean that in a way that is going to bring, I'm going to bring different ideas, different kinds of ways we handle business, the way we handle ourselves. Being on the Economic Development Commission, and Gwen knows this, you deal a lot with businesses. And the way we deal with businesses is how we can eliminate red tape and how we can stop burdening the people that are trying to open up businesses in downtown Leesburg. The big thing is, people come and they say, this is a great location, I want to get my business started. Then they see all the application process work that needs to go on through the town. Well, I think there's a better way we can streamline that. That's better for the businesses. Get them up and running faster. Get them in touch with the Small Business Development Center. That's right here in the George Mason Enterprise Center. It's all right here. We have the tools to make Leesburg more thriving than it already is. We just need to utilize it. We need to take advantage of it. And I think that I can do that as your next council member with new, fresh ideas, you know, a new way of looking at things. We have a good community here. We have great people that are willing to stick their necks out on the line, that are willing to put all they have for a business, and we don't want it to close in the next 2 to 3 months. We want it to thrive, stay in Leesburg. Look at Leesburg Vendor, who's been here for, you know, a number of years. Look at Neil's company, who's been here for how many years, Neil?
Since 1979.
Exactly. So it's the type of thing that we need to take us to the next level. We need to take care of our businesses. We need to take care of our people here and provide them with the opportunities to succeed with their business. Thank you.
This is the last question from us, and it's going to be kind of a lightning round, but it's only one. So we're going to give you 1 minute. And I'm going to, full disclosure, I spend most of my time either walking or riding bike around town. So I asked this question. So here we go. So I want to, who goes first now? Josh? Okay. Josh, does the town need to promote bike access or walkability? And if so, what should that look like?
So bike accessibility and bike rentals are things that have been brought up. I don't think the town needs bike rentals, to be honest. Quite frankly, downtown is already very cramped. And I don't want to see anybody, and the sidewalks just got widened. The last thing we need on downtown streets are bikers, more bikers. Not offense to
Sit
you,
down.
but more bike access, definitely. The Artisan Trail is a huge bikers thing to do. I personally don't own a bike, so I don't even know if I can ride a bike. But those things do need to be promoted. Things like the Artisan Trail. People come into town just to try our awesome breweries, and they ride their bikes from Purcellville, West Virginia, Sterling. So I do think that it's a good. I mean, we have a new brewery that just opened up, brewing. Bike Trail, spelled with ale. So I think that we are, because the WND Trail rides right behind my house. So if you've gone by Crescent Place and seen a Josh Steele for Leesburg sign, that's my house. Don't throw any eggs at it, but that is my house. So
Sorry, 1 minute. Sorry,
okay,
sorry. I
yep,
forgot about
that's
that.
it. That's
All
it.
right, thank you. Go ahead.
So we have the WNOD, we have bike racks. I really believe we should have more access on and off the WNOD. Not necessarily downtown in the historic district, I do agree with Josh about that. But I really would love to see more bike access with dropping off points where they can put the bike, have it secured, and get off and walk into town and enjoy what we have downtown. Thank you.
Well, first of all, if Josh is worried about my silver hair, then I'll
Hey, he couldn't do math in his head.
then
You
I'll
got
put
it.
forth that I'm a martial arts instructor with a 5th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. Black belts in other martial arts, and I can ride a bike. Now, I believe that bike trails and walking trails are crucial to the transportation system within the town. Anything that we can do to get people out of their cars, especially as we build these communities that are closer together and people can move from one community to shopping and so on. If we can discourage people or encourage people not to get in their cars, I believe bike trails and walking trails are a great idea. Now, we actually got pretty close to developing a comprehensive trail system within town, but it got derailed because people were worried about, am I done?
Or you can just wrap it up.
I'll just wrap it up.
Sorry.
People were worried about strangers in the neighborhood. This is a community. These things benefit all of us, and I believe they're absolutely crucial to the well-being of our transportation system and the community as a whole. Thank you.
We had a couple more, but we're going to stay up for over an hour. And so we do want to spend about 15 minutes, get people off their feet and downstairs eating dinner, because I'm sure you guys are hungry. But if anybody has any questions, then do have 15 minutes of audience questions. Yes, sir.
Very short, brief question. Loudoun County, Frederick Vote.
Then the Fulton County.
Not Leesburg, Loudoun County, Frederick Vote.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I think you're not Loudoun County High School, because, I'm just kidding. Loudoun County, definitely friend. We need to lean on them on a lot more issues. Transportation being definitely one. Our economic director for the county, Buddy Riser, is, Riser, okay. I've met with him a handful of times, and he is one of the best economic development directors in North America. And he, quite frankly, says, if Leesburg succeeds, Loudoun County succeeds, and vice versa. There's a number of things that we need to lean on the county for, and I think that if we can better mend our relationship with the Board of Supervisors, Leesburg's going to be more successful in the future.
I see those relationships as symbiotic, and I believe we should nurture them and work together. I believe we need a seat at the table because there's a lot going on out there in the county, and we can't just drop a bubble over Leesburg and pretend it's not happening. And if we don't have a seat at the table, we are most definitely going to be on the menu. So I would suggest that we have focused leadership at the table, doing the right thing for Leesburg and being focused about that. But I do believe, Mark, to your question, they are friend, and we should help to make them even more of a friend.
So yes, I believe in general the county and the town get along with each other. I believe there are times when the county holds a gun to the town's head to get what they want, and I believe the town often does not negotiate its best position. And we have, for example, a 4-story parking garage on North Street, which I believe is an example of that. I believe the stadium project, which I hope everybody in this room knows about, and I am not arguing good, bad, or indifferent about the project, but I believe the county is using that project in a very strong position to get the town to open up Kincaid Boulevard, which the town has promised they would not do. That project is being pushed along at an unbelievable rate, 13 months, basically from inception to opening day. And I believe the county and the town need to be more cooperative in a process like that, and we need to be aware when a project like that is going to spring up, because it represents an effect on 536 homes in the Kincaid Forest subdivision, and the council is going to do nothing but feel the heat of whatever decisions get made there. Thank you.
I happen to be one of those wonderful residents in Country Club affected by all this, and one of my things of how I'm going to vote depends on how you're going to vote. I already know how most of that council's going to vote. I want them to build by right. I don't want 90 townhouses, because that puts probably 180 cars at that intersection. We've already got Meadowbrook across the way. We've got everything behind Food Line being developed. I don't think you all have hung out on the southwest quadrant. It takes me 40 minutes to get to Isaac Walton one day. 2 miles. We can't have any more development. No to text amendments. I'm not saying they're not going to do something, but make them build by right. How do you feel?
Let me just say I feel your pain.
No, you don't live in my house. It's on the golf course. You don't.
I get that. I get that completely. I really do. My concern is that by right, have you looked at the other things they can do by right? The whole list. Okay. So I just want to make sure that everybody that's in that neighborhood that's saying absolutely don't let them do by right has really thought this through about what else could happen by right in that subdivision. I would love to see the tax base stay off the rooftops and onto more commercial and have the kinds of things I talked about earlier. But I think you need to be really aware and keep an open mind about what by right can actually mean will happen on that ground. I'm just saying.
Okay, so by right, 27 houses on the golf course, by right, a hotel on the commercial pad. That's what it is currently zoned for. The hotel, if they build a hotel there, which they can do by right, that too will generate a lot of traffic. If in addition to that, however many homes get built on the golf course, that too will generate traffic. Now, the neighborhoods formed an organization, Keep the West Park Golf Course Green, and they've got a Facebook site. And there are a lot of opinions posted on that site, and there's not always a consensus. This is one of the things that makes serving on a town council very difficult. We know there are real concerns by everybody in this room. We know that. And in the end, it's a balancing act, and in the end, not every decision is going to make everybody happy. Absolutely not. Does the neighborhood simply want to take the risk? Is this the strong position? That? Let them go by right and we'll see what's going to happen. Well, it's not going to make the people along Chancellor very happy, I can tell you. And
I'm
others.
on that street.
There you go. So,
I'd rather see 2 damn houses in my backyard than a hotel or,
Well, the hotel
or 90
could-
or 90 towns.
a hotel could happen on the commercial site regardless of the houses. So you just need to be aware.
2 of those houses, those 3-acre lots, would be my back vision in my
I don't want to take up too much time. I know this is supposed to be a minute, but there are basically 2 things that can happen by right on that property: 27 houses on the golf course and a hotel as it's currently zoned. on the commercial pad. These are the decisions that are going to be made, but not until the council actually sees a proposal. Thank you.
Come on, Josh, fix this.
So plain and simple, I don't answer to the developers. I answer to the voters. Plain and simple. That's what matters to me, is the people that live and that are affected in that area, specifically. I would like to see no houses go up, in my personal opinion. If I could vote for it any way I would. I would make them all go away and just say, that's it. But we've beaten, you probably heard by right, 1 million times tonight. You know what they can do. You've seen the options. We've talked about them. But I don't answer to the developers. I answer to the citizens and the taxpayers of Leesburg. That's what matters to me.
Hello, Jeff Mitchell, lived in Leesburg for 20 years. I hope that is long enough to grant citizenship. To the point question, across the street, the Civil War Memorial, status quo, remove it or install something that balances the history.
I'll go for it. Okay, this is a very big issue, not just in this community, but nationwide. I'm going to say from the outset, history notwithstanding, that statue represents a lot of pain and heartache to a substantial portion of the community. It's not as old as we might like to think. A lot of these statues came to the country in an effort beginning in the early 20th century, 1904, 1906, to place these statues all in many cities in the South. It's a painful reminder of a very painful part of our history. And I am not certain, there's no equivocation. I believe the county, and it's a county decision, by the way, should have the right to make a decision on whether or not that statue stays there. But the Board of Supervisors punted that decision. They could have asked the state for the authority, but in the end they decided not to. They said, well, let's let our historic commission decide. But if the historic decision decides to move it, we still can't do anything because by law, for whatever reason, you can't relocate these statues. I believe the cemetery at Ball's Bluff, for example, would be an excellent place for that statue. You want to go see it? Then there it is. But I believe that the courthouse lawn may not be the most appropriate place for its location.
You're right, this is a tough one, and I tend to agree with you. Bob Brown asked me the same question. He wasn't real happy with my answer, but he did ask me the question. And I am all about our history, but I got to thinking, would I want to stare at a statue of the place and time where women were getting burned at the stake because they had a menstrual cycle? You know, I don't think I'd want to look at that every single day. And that used to happen because they burned them as witches. They thought they were witches. And that wasn't really good. So I thought about, do you balance it? Do you have, one of each? And you remember our history, but I really like the Ball's Bluff idea. I think that that's the perfect place for it. If you want to go look at it, you can look at it there. And it's not the town's decision, it's the county decision. But I think it's an important topic, and I think that people coming into Leesburg have a perception about what Leesburg is all about when that lone figure is in the front of our courthouse. And it's not necessarily a perception that I think they should have. So I would see a lot of what Neil had to say as an option.
So, as both Neil and Gwen put it, this isn't a town issue. This is a county issue. The town is more worried about snow removal than they are about the statue removal this year.